Yeah, just all those mundane inconveniences like paying bills, getting a part-time job, registering for insurance, just like labor
Oh,
laws
man.
that only help the company but not the employee.
Dude, you're giving me PTSD on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, comic books, anime, music, food, video games, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with a H, and with me, as always, is my co-host Tavi. Hi, Tavi.
G'day, Dan. What's going on?
Not much, man. Just a lazy day watching a bunch of movies.
Yeah. Two of them, which we're going to talk about.
We are eventually going to talk about the Baby Assassins series. So Baby Assassins original recipe and Baby Assassins 2 babies.
Well, I just call them Baby Assassins 1, Baby Assassins 2. I know that there's different subtitles or different like subheadings for different ones. So I'm just like, oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just 1 and 2. It's all good. Yeah.
So we'll talk about those eventually, but before we do that, shall we do our reoccurring segment, Tavi? What have we been watching?
Yeah. Cue the music. Awesome stuff.
So this is the segment of the show where we talk about what we've been watching recently, Asian movie or no. If you want to jump straight ahead to the Baby Assassins review, I'll put time codes underneath. But yeah, Tavi, I've been watching something. Well, I watched, like I said, I watched 3 movies today.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. Like, you know, that's a good effort.
Yeah. Before I watched the Baby Assassin series, I watched the Equalizer. Or Equalizer 3, as it's known to the general public.
I think only you and I have called it the Equalizer.
I'm sure other people call it the Equalizer. I'm surprised that the studios didn't go for the Equalizer. It's right there. Everybody knows if you make a 3rd movie in a series and you have the letter E in your title, you got to turn one of those E's into a 3.
Into a 3.
I would have also accepted the Equalizer 3, you know.
Yeah. I think the last movie that did it was Expendables. I have a feeling that studios are catching on to like the cheapness of that gimmick.
I don't even think Expendables 3 is called the 3 Spendables. I'm pretty sure it's called Expendables 3.
Yeah, it's called Expendables 3. Yeah.
But yeah, Equalizer. Pretty good, I reckon. I enjoyed it. You've seen this as well.
Yeah, I watched it in the theater last year. It's a pretty fun movie. I enjoyed the Equalizer series with Denzel. I haven't watched the original from what it's based off, but I assume that they're pretty different in tone. Yeah, the Denzel ones, he plays like Robert McCall.
Yep, that's
which is
his name.
Also and he's just really good at what he does. He's just
it's a classic
or something.
Dad action situation. Older gentleman who's got a past of being a badass is reluctantly brought back into the world of having to be a badass and teaching a bunch of unlikable bad guys that he's not to be fucked with, basically. So your classic, your Takens, your Nobodies, you know, this genre of dad action that you and I, you know, have grown to love. I guess we've always kind of liked these kinds of movies.
I mean, we're basically the dad.
We're the demographic, right? But just without kids.
Yeah, we just don't have kids. Just without kids. Yeah, it's funny how like, I mean, the term dad action and like dad music or dad rock has kind of changed because music that I listened to growing up in high school. Like I recently went to go like watch Queens of the Stone Age and Royal Blood. Great bands. And it never occurred to me that like these bands are now like dad rock.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's kind of weird because like I embrace the term like dad action and dad rock, but there's also the connotation that it's not cool, which is like...
Yeah, it's not Tavi.
To me, it is
You're
cool.
You're going to wake up. No, it's not. This is exactly how our dads thought, Tavi, when we were ragging on their music.
in hindsight now, when I listen to that music, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Like that music is still timeless. I think it's cool.
Welcome to the
Like,
world of
stuff
getting
like the
older,
Bee Gees.
Tavi. You know, this is how old people feel.
I'm incredibly biased in this, but like I cannot see how modern stuff is cooler than dad stuff. I'm just gonna say it straight up. Like you're not gonna tell me that Marvel is cooler than like the Equalizer.
But you can recognize that this is exactly what old people say, right?
Yeah, I know, but but still,
Yeah,
like,
still, we are correct.
No way.
Our point of view is the correct point of view.
Our point of view is the right point of view.
Yes,
you can't have any other new point of view.
I agree.
But like honestly, though, yeah, it's just like. Yeah, I guess, I can't even see the other side at the moment. Like, I can acknowledge that some modern stuff is still pretty good. But, like, you're not going to say that, like, Harry Styles is cooler than Queens of the Stone Age. You would never convince me in, like, a million years.
Yeah, I get it. Like,
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be as objective as we can, but we are raised by the era that we're brought up in, right?
We're
so
old,
and we are old, and we like the stuff from the era that we grew up in, I guess. And it's interesting as well because like our generation is pretty much the dominant generation in the creative industry at the moment. So it's kind of interesting to see, like, even in something like video game development, for example, like there are a lot of games coming out where it's about like a dad protecting a child, things like the God of War franchise. It used to be about an angry bloke just running amok and murdering gods, but now it's about, a father. Kratos is a father now and is taking care of his son. So that kind of evolution has stemmed from like, game developers growing up as well and having their own children and drawing on these kinds of experiences.
Well, apparently the new direction didn't involve the original creator of the God of War, because I think I saw like an article of like the original God of War creator says he hates the latest two games. He's like, I didn't want this like bullshit
sentimental bullshit.
I just wanted a guy who just run amok and kill a bunch of people.
Yeah, but it is indicative of. I mean, there'll always be those kinds of angry. Like Doom Guy is still Doom Guy. He doesn't have a kid. But like things like the Last of Us series as well. Like. It's just that kind of trend of like the creatives are kind of growing up, and I think like the themes that they're trying to put out are also kind of growing up. But these dad action movies are something that have kind of always been around because like I feel like these dad action movies are like the new westerns,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're making a bit of a comeback, don't you think? I mean, you said you recently watched Roadhouse, the new one. Which you said you enjoyed. I haven't seen any of them. I've been meaning to watch it because it just looks like a bit of dad action. It's just
it's a pretty good representation of like how dad action finds its niche because the original Roadhouse movie from the 80s, that would have been a movie where like people our age would have watched it growing up probably and have it in their mind. There's that Family Guy bit where Peter Griffith is spin kicking everyone and saying Roadhouse. So like people, it's in the zeitgeist. It's a movie that people have grown up with that are around our age. And now that kind of translates into remakes, a remake of that movie. And the remake is okay. Like I wouldn't say it's the best even in terms of dad action. Like I feel like I would have preferred to watch Beekeeper, bro.
The Beekeeper. Beekeeper is... that's a movie I watched earlier in the year. It is like by no means like a fantastic story, but it is like I wouldn't even say it's a guilty pleasure. It's honestly like one of my favorites.
It's just a fun movie.
It is so stupid in its premise that it's just like, this is fun. There's so many like. There's not bee puns, but there's a lot of references to bees.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's so silly. I don't remember which episode that you said it, and I hadn't watched it then, but you're like, Jason Statham's like X-Forces part of this group called the Beekeepers or whatever. So they're like the off the grid military badasses,
protecting the hive and whatnot, right?
Yeah, Oh yeah, when a queen is in danger, the hive. Yeah, there's so much of that shit. But like like there's nothing in the movie that if you become an ex-beekeeper, there's nothing that suggests that you have to be a beekeeper. Like, I'm sure he's probably the only beekeeper that has become a beekeeper.
You don't reckon like beekeeper. For training purposes they send them off to beekeeping school to kind of learn more about bees and how important it is to protect the hive? You know, even it just
because you kind of see like one other beekeeper in the movie, and they're like have nothing to do with bees. So it's just really funny. But he's like taken his new role as a beekeeper so much that he's like he like throws a jar of honey at people. And it's just so silly. And but I really enjoyed it.
I think that's the strength of this genre is it doesn't take itself too seriously. I think even like Equalizer is one of the more straight-laced or the Equalizer series is one of the more straight-laced versions of that action. But even then, it's still pretty kind of like tongue-in-cheek. It knows exactly what it is, and it just leans into that, like unapologetically.
Unapologetically unstoppable protagonists.
Yeah.
who have no... I mean, Denzel only gets shot once by a kid at the start of the movie, and then everyone else just gets equalized. Like there's one moment in the movie, it's probably my favorite like scene in the movie. It's where I think the mafia is like sussing out this like cop that they've got under their thumb, and he's not a corrupt cop, but he's just bullied by the Gomorrah, as they call them. And then in the movie, the cop has been helping like Denzel like settle into Italy. And then like when the group is like harassing this guy, like you see like the guy's got his arm around like the cop's shoulder, like all like super smug. And he like turns around. It's just a really funny shot of just like Denzel just looking at the guy. And it's just like, it's perfect. It's just like in my eyes, like no one else can be the Equalizer. He is the Equalizer. He's the Equalizer. It's just him.
He coined the term getting role. Equalized.
Getting. That's right. We've it's not even our favorite movie series, but we've just like, How would you explain his fighting style in these movies? They're very like, it's very like efficient.
I mean, that's what it's all about, right? His gimmick is that he has a timepiece on his wrist and he times his fights to the second, you know? So it is about efficiency, I guess. It's a lot of like using improvised weapons or like using the bad guys' weapons on other bad guys, a lot of like pulling someone in front of him to shield him from bullets. And the guy getting just ragdolled.
A lot of like manipulation of like
joints and stuff.
Joints and stuff. Like grabbing their fingers and like moving them around and shit.
It's very brutal. I feel like in the third movie especially, he was just like...
It's more violent,
He's so remorseless in it. I almost felt bad for some of the goons.
It's like in the Beekeeper as well. The difference is, like, I guess, and maybe the weak point about the Equalizer series is that because Denzel is a bit older, he's not as agile. The fight scenes are still convincing, but he can't, like, do as much as, say, like, a Statham or a Keanu Reeves. And... I think that's fine. It just kind of makes it a little bit more forgettable for me. But like the Beekeeper, Statham is just he's hack. He's too hack. So there's almost a point in the movie where Jason Statham kind of becomes antagonist a little bit in a sense that you just feel bad because no one can stop him at all in the movie, and like you got like all these like FBI people trying to stop him, and they just get clowned on. It's always like he's in a group of people, he's surrounded, and then he just finds a way out just by like beating them up.
Bees, Tavi. Bees.
There's no unfortunately, there's no bee puns like to be or not to be.
He doesn't throw
Or
like a
yeah.
fistful of bees into a guy's face or something like that.
Yeah.
that would be fun.
Definitely not take this segment too long. I just want to say, like, in terms of dad action, this movie, the Beekeeper really has that sense of a disgruntled boomer, like talking down to Gen Zers and millennials. Because the bad guys in this movie, I mean, the inciting incident is that there's like this old lady who's looking after Statham. She's letting him stay on this property, and then she gets scammed by like this company, and everyone. It's just like this big call center where everyone's like dressed in that kind of millennial,
sure,
like younger millennial Gen Z.
Yeah, the bad guy's got that haircut, doesn't he? He's got that Gen Z haircut.
That's pretty funny. He beats up this one dude and he's like got him like hostage and stuff. So hey man, like, you want NFTs? I give you some NFTs. I got Bitcoin, and it's just it's really funny. It's just like
and that's the essence of dad action, right? It's the boomer.
Yeah.
It's delivering the boomer fantasy of delivering vengeance on younger generations, basically.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah,
and I love it.
Definitely,
we love it.
Yeah. It's so easy to watch whenever it ever comes on streaming. Just you have a good time.
I want to watch it.
It's just like
sure.
it's so stupid. Chucks a jar of honey at someone.
Yeah.
And it's just stupid, but it's really funny.
But pivoting to something that is not really dad action. In fact, pretty different to dad action. But we'll talk about it. It's the Baby Assassin series. So Baby Assassins 1 is from 2021. Baby Assassins 2 is from 2023, right? So we'll probably be dropping minor spoilers in this episode. I don't think we need to tiptoe around spoilers that much, because honestly, not that much to spoil.
There's not that much to spoil.
They're action films, and not all that plot heavy, to be honest. But if you are a fan of like quirky action, I would say, and Japanese movies, and anime, maybe, I would definitely check this series out. I don't know how you can watch them, but maybe
I think they're streaming on Hiya, and you can get them. I know Wellgo USA sell them on Amazon, so that's how you can.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I got them.
Oh, physical media. That's always an option too.
Yeah, physical media. So.
But yeah, like we'll be dropping spoilers, so if you want to go in fresh, maybe go watch them first and then come back to this episode.
These are, I guess, could possibly be like cult movies in the works. They're definitely not your mainstream kind of film.
They're not super highly rated either, these films.
Yeah. They're weird movies. I mentioned Baby Assassins 1 actually in my 2022 like best of, I'm pretty sure, top 10. I just really thoroughly enjoy these series. It's basically about the lives of Mahiro and Chisato, who are assassins, and they're young.
Yep.
Like, I guess early 20s assassins.
That's where the baby part comes in. They're not assassins that only exclusively murder babies. They are just young assassins.
So basically, it's kind of like how Baby Metal, it's just like cute girls singing metal. Right. It's basically cute girls murdering people. But yeah, these movies they're very interesting in a sense that they're not necessarily that weird, but they're weird. I think they're weird in a sense that I really love these movies because of their style and the humor and the chemistry between the leads. But it is also a very hard movie to recommend unless you have an interest in like Japanese culture and anime. And if you are willing to forego a little bit of logic and a little bit of plot holes, because I think these movies are by no means perfect, and I actually think they're very flawed movies. But what really gets me through is the personality that these movies exude. I really love the chemistry between Mahiro and Chisato.
Yeah, they're great. So Akari Takaishi is playing Chisato, and Saori Izawa is playing Mahiro.
Yeah, so I've not seen these actresses in anything but this series.
I think they're up and comers, and definitely faces to keep an eye on, because I think they're probably going places. So Chisato is kind of the unhinged one, right? Like she's
she's like
she's quick to turn to violence.
Yeah. And Mahiro's kind of like the older, like quieter one, but she's like, I guess, the better fighter out of the two.
She's more uncomfortable and awkward in personality. I mean, they're both good at fighting, but I think Chisato she seems to prefer guns, and Mahiro prefers to use her fists,
like hand to hand. Yeah.
So I think that works as well. Like their personalities are quite different, so they kind of work well in that respect. And their fighting styles are also quite different, so it works in the action scenes as well.
I want to talk a little bit about the fighting, because the fighting is I like the fighting, but it's this kind of special Japanese style of fighting where I've seen it in other Japanese forms of media. It's kind of like unchoreographed choreography. It's very like movie style fighting in a sense that every move is telegraphed, and it's not like everything is not in terms of the realism of it being efficient. It's very very showy, but it's also very very fun to watch as well. I love
this style of Japanese action direction. The action director and fight choreographer for these movies is Kensuke Sonomura. So he did Machine Girl and Bushido Man. He's also done some stunt work in a bunch of stuff, including Alice in Borderland, which we have covered in the past.
That's it. That's actually a good example. Like Alice in Borderlands has this style of fighting. Come to think of it as well.
There's a lot of like scurrying and a lot of like spinning and I like it a lot actually. Like and the sound design as well adds a lot to it. Like the design of the gunshots and the punch impacts, and a lot of like fluttering of clothes. It really adds a sense of speed and frenetic energy to the fight scenes. And the heroic bloodshed is really good as well.
There's heroic bloodshed,
particularly in the first movie, I would say.
There's a little bit of like dad action in this movie as well that we like, and even the style of it as well. You can see that Mahiro's kind of she wears like a Lou Reed t-shirt in one of the scenes. There's a little bit of like, rock music as well. And even in the opening of the second film, just like I guess spoilers, they didn't die in the first one, but like there's like this kind of like heavy like rock song, and it's really refreshing to see, because I know and I went on a tangent before how like stuff was cooler back then. It's refreshing to see, because this would be like a millennial film, but like they've got a lot of these kind of older sounding rock style songs, which I just much prefer, because like I'm a little bit sick of like the kind of the SoundCloud rapper sound or the mumble rap sound that's in every fucking movie these days. It's kind of annoying.
I think it's pretty eclectic though, these films, because there's a bit of like high intensity J-pop as well going on. It kind of gives off like that anime inspired feeling as well.
And I guess like the subject matter of the film is dark, but these are very light watches. I've seen the first one like multiple times. I reckon I've watched it like 5 times, because I just love just hanging out with the characters. I think that's what this movie exhibits really well. It's just the chemistry between the leads. It's really, really fun to watch.
Which I think probably goes to explain its low rating in a way, because I feel like from the offset, like what I was expecting, it was a bit more straightforward, like of an action film. But it's more of like a comedy with some action in it. You know what I mean? So I feel like maybe that could have left audiences a bit disappointed, because it's not what they were expecting. But like you and I have said countless times, it's like you should keep an open mind generally. I know definitely you are in the mood to watch something sometimes, but even if the something that you get is not what you were expecting, doesn't mean that it's bad. You know what I mean? It's just not what you're expecting.
That's true.
And I think this is definitely one of these cases where I don't know what kind of marketing went into this film, but like just judging from the posters and just how it's presented like on the internet, its internet presence, I feel like it's probably something that people weren't expecting.
Because these movies, they are like low budget movies, and you can tell, there's a lot of CGI blood. There's only, in the first one particularly, there's only 2 fight scenes. It's the one at the start and the one at the end. And then the rest of the movie is basically the story of 2 girls who are assassins, but they're trying to integrate into the real world because the company that they work for, their rule is that they have to blend in with society.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that they've made this assassins committee or community. Very like
it's a company.
Very, it's a very Japanese company. Yeah. So they have like insurance. They have
their handler is like this nerdy looking guy with glasses who's just always banging on about the rules.
It's really funny actually. It's like this is definitely a film intended for like a Japanese audience. But I still feel like it's relatable, and I think it helps because you and I have lived in Japan, and we have been under the scrutiny of such company heads at times.
Sure.
So it's very much like...
And it's not just the company stuff, but just the struggling, the day-to-day life,
just like paying bills and like there's a pretty funny scene where they're using a washing machine for the first time. It's like, you left the magazine, the gun magazine in there. Everything's ruined now.
Yeah.
And just like living together as well.
Yeah, in like a very cramped space. I really like their apartment space as well.
I love it.
There's a lot of like...
so much.
Japanese set design is generally pretty good. And this is no exception. But I like how it's really showcased in these like scenes of dialogue where it's just like one fixed camera angle and like just a long take of just really natural dialogue. And I think that works so well. It kind of falls away in the second movie a bit. But in the first movie, because I imagine the budget is a bit lower as well, like they do really lean on that. And I think it works so well with like just showcasing the chemistry between the 2 leads.
I mean, there's kind of that quick montage or quick series of shots where it's like it's like the one fixed camera angle, but it's different like moments of their time in the apartment. So this is the montage that's like showing the times moving forward, and it's just them hanging together. And what they're doing is they're just talking about like dumb shit,
mundane stuff.
And Chisato's just playing she's just playing Switch, and Mahiro's just watching something on her little like smartphone holder that seems very like convenient, and I want one. And she's always, and then she'd be punching this like this mannequin thing, and then Chisato would just be
vacuuming,
it's really light. Like there's not that much conflict in this movie, surprisingly, in these movies, even though there are in the first movie it's like Yakuza that they're kind of against, but it's like not really the big issue. I think the movie is pretty much like a commentary on what it's like to be out in the world on your own in Japan and just dealing with all the bureaucracy. Yeah,
I think even the main conflict is not between any antagonists, but just the 2 protagonists, like the struggles of living together. Like there's a part where, they both try to get a job at a maid cafe. And while Chisato is able to kind of like fit in really well and excel at her job, Mahiro isn't able to because of her personality, right? And that kind of causes a big rift between them. And the conflict creeps in because both of them are kind of feeling resentful toward each other, but it's not really like them resenting the other person. It's more them being frustrated with their own failings. Like Mahiro is frustrated by her inability to fit in, so she kind of takes it out on Chisato, accusing her of not focusing on her assassin duties. But on the other hand, Chisato is
basically saying that you're just a fucking emo.
But that's also her kind of feeling guilty because like she can't help her friend that much, like in this situation. So like it's just really good natural personal drama that says a lot about like their characters and relationship without being too ham-fisted.
It's interesting because on the surface these are not very subtle movies. The acting is very much that kind of exaggerated anime style acting, but a lot of it can be like fairly nuanced as well. Like just as you're talking about, like these frustrations with yourself and not fitting in, and frustration for your friends and not being able to help them. There's the very strong commentary on just Japanese work culture, just this Japanese style of their very rigid system that they kind of hold on to. And this is a millennial movie, I would say. I think the director is it Yugo Sakamoto?
Yeah, he was born in 96, so
Yeah, he's younger than us. Yeah, so it's definitely like he is pretty much disgruntled about something.
Yeah, I feel like if
Yeah.
the Equalizer and Beekeeper are, dad action, the boomer fantasy of revenge on the younger generation, this is definitely the younger generation's revenge on the older generation. Like, there's a lot of like Gen Z and millennial frustration on boomers
Against, like, boomers. Yeah.
Pretty specific to Japan, but not like. No, not all that specific. Like, there's things like having to go to job interviews and having to put up with like these managers that just kind of like lecturing you.
That first scene, it's pretty like, you've met people like that. Like it's Mahiro, she's going for a job interview, and there's this guy, and he's like, so what do you do for your knowledge? And she's like, oh, I'm a streamer, even though she's not actually a streamer. And he's like, oh yeah, my son said he was a streamer, and I like yelled at him and told him off and threw his computer out the window or whatever. And he says like, or basically all you kids want to do is just play all day and not work, like, and then he quotes this fucking poet.
Incorrectly.
Mahiro pretty much says incorrectly. And then she just kills him, which is really funny. It's very much, you're absolutely right. So it's kind of like, the opposite of I guess the Beekeeper in a sense that it's the millennials, like, you fucking,
they're just like
you old
constantly being berated for just little things. Like, there's the guy, the cleanup guy as well, that kind of lectures them about like
it's really funny.
it's really funny. He lectures them about like not shooting the guys in the head. Can you please shoot them in the heart instead because it's cleaner? And just their complaints about things like living expenses, college expenses and taxes. Like, they have that conversation with one of their maid co-workers, how she's like, she's doing this job that is really undignified and she's happy about it, but she's poor as fuck because she's got all this shit to pay for. So, and like, just all those mundane inconveniences, like paying bills, getting a part-time job, registering for insurance, just like labor laws that only help the company but not the employee.
Dude, you're giving me PTSD on like any I'm not sure what the system is now, but anyone who is about to be an expat in Japan and is going to work for a company, you're going to go through the catch-22 of getting a bank account, a phone number, and health insurance.
That trinity that you need a phone number to apply for a bank account, but you need a home address to apply for a telephone number, but you need a steady source of income to apply for like a rental apartment. So there's like the catch-22 of, if you don't have one, you can't have the other, but it's like a triangle.
It's designed to keep like foreigners out, which is like maybe a little bit fair enough, because recently
we suck. We ruin everything. So that fair enough.
I mean, you heard about what happened in Kyoto, right?
Yeah, of course I did.
Of course. Like, sorry, Japan. I mean, me and you weren't particularly bad.
Some of us are good.
Some of us are good.
Most of us are, maybe 50% of us are good.
Well, you can thank the Logan Pauls and the Johnny Somalis of the foreigners that have ruined it for everyone. But we're not talking about those kinds.
No, but even like, I think the takeaway from these films is that even like the younger Japanese generation feels this, right? Like, this is not something that's unique to expats. This is the younger generation of Japanese people are like rebelling against these systems that have been put into place that have helped like the previous generations thrive, but they at the same time they refuse to evolve and are now holding the next generation back. And just bogging them down with debt and pressures that, they don't have a way to kind of like overcome. They got to
right.
study to get a good job, but then the study like puts them in massive debt. So they spend their time working their job to pay for this debt that they've accrued in order to get a job. So it's it's, what I'm saying is this bullshit. Like, and
Like,
they should have shot them all.
It's funny because this movie, as you were saying, like all these issues that you've just explained are told from a very Japanese perspective. You know, it's told through these like maid cafes and all that kind of stuff. But this is a pretty much a universal message.
Any capitalist country, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we're fucked. Like you see so many articles on millennials would never own a house.
Yeah.
Or like 80% of millennials are.
Why didn't you buy a house 10 years ago, Tavi? Why didn't you? Why didn't you buy a house when you were like 15, like the rest of us?
And millennials are scared of everything, and you know, then you see like millennials start bagging Gen Zs, and that's probably me. Like, you know, Gen Zs can't order stuff at a menu because they've got anxiety and stuff. So there's all this horror of shit that's happening, and you can kind of get it from this pretty light-hearted
action
movie. Yeah, it's weird because I'm not sure. It is an action film at its core, I guess, and if you think about it, though, it maybe almost fails at that because there's not that much action within the middle of the film. There's not that much action from the start to the end. There's a little bit more action in the second one. The pacing of that is a bit better action-wise, but I honestly didn't mind that. I think when it comes to being pleasantly surprised by a film, or when you kind of get something that you weren't expecting, but and this is probably the laziest way of saying it, but as long as it's good, it doesn't really matter. But again, I mean, these movies have fairly like low ratings on IMDb. It's not for everyone. These movies are straightforward on a surface viewing, but they're very different in their structure, as if like, because it's basically, they're plotless movies almost. It is just
the first movie. The antagonists are a bunch of yakuza that are kind of just there.
There's a little bit of a plot, like they kind of intertwine a little bit, but they're kind of just there. Yeah, the yakuza like invade like one of the maid cafes, and a pretty funny scene where like the maids are trying to the boss is like, you know, there's no more like money and drugs, it's all like in maid cafes now. And then like he goes to see what a maid cafe is like, but then like
it seems like he's having fun at the start.
He's having fun.
But then he's not.
And then like he flips, but then like Chisato manages to kill them, and that scene actually, there's kind of like probably like a sad scene where like it seems like Chisato almost has like a group of friends and a group of colleagues that she likes to hang out with, because you know, she like bought them like all this food and stuff, and then like it just has to disappear because she's, at the end of the day, she's a killer, right? You know, so, and she's lost those friendships, and you can kind of see it in probably Akari's most subtle acting out of the whole series, because her acting is not very it's very over exaggerated. More so in the second one, I think. But like, there's like this little shot of her once the maids leave, and she kind of, her eyes get like slightly teary-eyed, but she doesn't cry, and then she's just like, okay, I better call like the cleaner. And that's when he starts complaining. And that scene itself, it's really, because like he goes on this really long tangent and then stops, and then he starts again, but then the way it's edited, it just cuts him off halfway through. And it's just really funny. It's just like, oh yeah. So this is like this weird contrast of like something that was like kind of violent, and then sad, and then just like, just this dude complaining.
The tone is all over the place in these films, like and that's another anime thing that this kind of borrows from. It's definitely anime inspired. There's a bunch of like anime references in this film. They've got like the nail puller outer thingies that from Higurashi.
Actually, Higurashi Koronako.
That's it.
Oh, I used to be able to say it.
When
the
they
cicadas
cry, yeah.
yeah, when they cry.
Yeah.
It's just called higurashi, actually. Most people just call it higurashi.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's a fucking messed up series. I wonder what the copyright law... Because I've watched not just this movie, but a couple of other Japanese products. I mean,
Lucky
Japanese
Star.
bits of media.
Lucky Star is an
Lucky
anime that
Star.
constantly references other anime
Yeah.
by name. I think
But-
they bleep it sometimes, and that's probably due to copyright.
Yeah, but I've watched like some other movies recently, and they always reference. They usually reference something that is like an actual piece of media. Like, I mean, in this movie, they reference Higurashi. They even talk about Ocean's 8. She's wearing like a Lou Reed T-shirt. But I was watching some other movie where they talk about, they talk about Kimi no Nawa. They talk about all these real Japanese bands that I've listened to, and like, I really like this reference to real life pieces of media. And even in the end credits, like Chisato is playing like a Switch, and you can see that it's a Switch, you know. But
You love product placement.
I like product placement when it makes sense to the story. When it's natural, you know. But yeah, I always like when it comes to writing something in the West like that, it has to be like the company has to pay for it, or you have to pay for the right to use it. So I'm assuming whether or not this is more lax or not, because Nintendo is fucking notorious for they will jump down anyone's fucking throat and like rip them out. Like they've gone and
Anyone that's not Japanese.
yeah, but they've gone and destroyed all these like tournaments and stuff for like Smash Brothers because there's like So yeah, but it's just kind of like in this movie, they're just playing Switch.
It does help to make the world feel a bit more organic. And who doesn't love like pointing at something and be like, I know what that is. Everybody loves a recognizable reference.
But you don't really question it though.
No, you don't.
So I wonder.
I think in the second movie, there's like an old guy that's trying to talk about Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I mean, in some animes they'll have like a fake like Whack Donald's or something like that. You know, it's just the M, but it's a W. It's just moved upside down, and that's enough. So I don't know.
Maybe they can reference Japanese stuff, but they can't reference, Western stuff. Maybe that's
I think so. Yeah, they can I think you can reference Western stuff, but you can only say it, like because they talk about Ocean's 8. But
true.
So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this film's budget is so small that there is just not something that they can. That companies really worry about that much, because no one gives a shit about like a bunch of Japanese movies.
Could be.
So it's fine.
Yeah. Which one did you prefer, Baby Assassins 1 or Baby Assassins 2?
I think I like Baby Assassins 1 more, even though I think Baby Assassins 2 is the probably more cohesive story. I think Baby Assassins 1 just captures that mood better, just like the hangout mood, like the comedy. It's almost like a stoner comedy hangout movie without any drugs in it. Like I'm almost reminded of like Pineapple Express. This the kind of like natural banter.
A lot of hijinks,
Yeah. I wonder how much of this was scripted and how much of it is improv, because knowing Japanese just culture in general and probably within its filmmaking style, it probably wasn't improvised. A lot of this would have been scripted, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it just feels really natural. And I think it's just because of all the long takes and surprisingly like good cinematography in these movies. I think the action is quite well shot. There's a lot of wide angles and surprisingly not that many cuts. I really like its fusion of mise-en-scene with production design and just dialogue, So you're there with the characters. You're not like, it's not that really boring fucking shot reverse shot and the background is clearly CGI and because the lighting is fucked, but it's just like, we don't care. It's all like, if you're not on board with the performances of the lead in these films, you're probably not going to like them, because this is what you're kind of watching for the hijinks and just the banter between the two. The action is pretty good, but it also might be like a little bit too fake for some people.
Even the action is still not for everyone because it is quite cartoony at times.
These are very niche movies. Yeah, I think the second one is a little bit more palatable, but that's maybe what makes it a little bit less interesting.
Yeah, I think the second one, the balance feels a little bit off. I don't know. Maybe it's just because that was the third movie in a row that I was watching, but
maybe,
it just didn't capture me as much as the first movie. I think like the antagonists as well were a bit too sympathetic in the second movie. So the second movie like introduces these two antagonists that are essentially the male versions of Chisato and Mahiro. Like they are also pretty young assassins. They're pretty close. Yeah. They have a good dynamic. They're just trying to like get ahead in this world that is kind of like keeping them down. You know, they're putting their lives on the line to earn a bit of money, but then they get screwed out of that money. So they're like, how can we kind of fix this? Oh, let's try to move up by taking out these two assassins. So like, while their intentions are not like honorable, like they're not bullies. Like the Yakuza in the first movie are essentially just bullies. So it feels good when they get their comeuppance, you know? But like these two guys are a bit too sympathetic to feel good that when they ultimately get defeated at the end.
Yeah, I think I like that though. I think that adds a different element to this movie. It's where they are pretty much the male version of Chisato and Mahiro.
I think it kind of undermines the themes though of like the young generation versus the old generation, as opposed to like these two, you know, they're basically on the same team, but they're forced to like go against each other because of these systems that have been put into
like,
place.
It's basically these older generations that put these young people.
It doesn't feel
into
good
these systems.
though, does it, Tommy?
That's the thing. It's not supposed to feel good sometimes.
I don't know.
Sometimes you just have to, unfortunately, step over people that you may have been friends with, like in another life.
Felt bad for them. They have that bonding moment right before like they get killed.
That's the thing. You feel bad. And I think it was good to feel bad at that point because like if this whole movie was just it was almost a retread of the first movie where there is that lighthearted hijinks, but it is in this one there is that dynamic between the protagonists and the antagonists, but they're not necessarily enemies with each other. They're just trying to get by in the system, and at the end there's kind of a respect for each other, but they just have to do what they have to do, you know.
The system wins in the end.
The system wins in the end, and it's all the old cunts' fault, you know, who just sit there.
They're celebrating. That guy that got gut shot, the cleaner guy that got gut shot, he's having a great time. He's like, fucking kill these guys. How dare they shoot me? I'm older than them. How dare they, quite frankly.
It is almost like a metaphor for just in-company squabbles, isn't it? You just kind of like just get angry at other people within your field and stuff. Like we've definitely seen it in workplaces that we've been at. I'm not gonna name them because I'll keep them.
I just think like in the same way that dad action is fun because it plays into the boomer fantasy of like the boomers are always gonna like beat the young people. Like I feel like maybe the second movie of Baby Assassins should have also lent in a bit more and maybe not been afraid of retreading the same ground, but just kind of lean into it a bit harder of like, you know, like the older generation sucks and the younger generation should prevail. I don't know. That would have made me feel a bit better.
I think I'm going to disagree with that. I think maybe it's because it was your third movie the other day. Because I watched this like pretty much fresh, and I thought that was a nice evolution of the themes, because it's kind of tackling something just a little bit different. You still have that kind of young people struggling. There's a really funny part in the second film where they kind of have to get these jobs as dancing mascots, and there's like Iron Man cam as I call it, where it's just like big close-ups of their faces inside the suit, and they're just like they're obviously in a studio and just like nodding their heads and stuff. It just looks really funny because they're obviously in this sense like they're obviously not in the same location, and it kind of just works with like the silliness of it. I think like the exciting incident of that is for them is they forgot to pay a bill a trial that they joined for a gym.
Yeah.
And then it's just like that guy in the company just saying, you can't do this, the company won't help you out with that. And it's just so like it's so real, you know.
Yeah.
Like when you kind of become part of a body of something, and then you read all these, you know, things. Yeah, this will benefit you and that will benefit you. And then when you try to get it, it's like, nah,
Nothing benefits
you.
you.
This, you miss this little bit of loophole, so you're screwed. And even in the first movie, where like just before the Takase, that's the cleaner, like, oh yeah, you killed these guys out of like your own like thingo. Even though like they were gonna kill her if like, you know, and like that's basically a company asset gone if she died. But yeah, because you killed them, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket.
It's not covered by insurance. Also Yakuza and politicians cost more to clean up. So yeah, this is actually a fair price. Actually, you are wrong.
Yeah.
You are wrong to question it.
And even like there's a bit where, because they need permission to hunt the two guys in the end, and they've been like suspended because they forgot to like pay a fine by a certain day, which is also a really funny scene because they're just hanging out making like fucking Korean-esque kind of dessert, like ice
ice kajang or pat bingsu or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, pat bingsu. I don't know what it's called. Yeah, that. But yeah, they're just running to go pay this bill, which is like something that I've probably experienced maybe more than once.
No, you would have just let it lapse, Tavi. I know you. you
you
wouldn't have been running to the bank.
Yeah, I strolled, catching the, and they're just like, yeah, I gotta pay this. Can you turn my utilities back on, please?
One would argue that having your utilities turned off is letting it lapse.
Nah, it came back on. It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. If it turns off, oh, better go.
Oh man, living in Japan is wild sometimes.
Living in Japan, I was and this is after I left the company that I was working for. I was hanging out with like a student, and we went karaoke. But he was telling me like times that he like let shit lapsed as well. And I'm like, oh bro, it's not just me. It's not just a dumb foreigner like me. It's like normal Japanese people as well. Yeah, so it's there you go. This movie is very relatable in that sense.
It's very relatable.
I mean, you also see I think there's a cameo from Atarashi Gakko, which I liked as well. They're like an all-girl like musical group.
Okay.
In the movie, they're the ones that like after they've finished like getting beat up by the kids in the costume. It's just like the schoolgirl. Yeah. So they're pretty popular. Their music is really cool. It's kind of like acid jazz pop fusion music, and it's a little bit frantic. So what you see in the movie is very much them.
They don't do that much in the movie, but I appreciate that.
No, they don't do very much, but yeah,
there
was
cool.
Also, there you go, like actual Japanese thingers.
Were there a couple of like references to Sakamoto's other movies? Because he put out 4 movies in 2021. I'm just having a look now, and they're all kind of like, most of them are about assassins and hitmen. Yeah,
actually, this movie is a spin-off of a movie called The Janitor, which I haven't seen.
Okay,
and I think The Janitor is a more straightforward film where it is about a janitor who used to be like an ex-special forces guy, I think, or a janitor at high school whose true identity is a professional assassin raised by Majima, who killed his father, fights 9 assassins to save Majima's daughter.
Okay.
So this one sounds more like a straightforward action film. And I think, Mahiro and Chisato are one of the 9 assassins that probably show up in the film. So I don't know. Maybe they get killed in it or not. But I guess their characters were popular enough, or the actresses just really liked embodying that role that they made these 2 baby assassins movies.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes these movies enjoyable, is that I feel like there is a very genuine effort to make something that everyone enjoys, even though that it's not the highest budget film. Yeah, there's some shoddy CGI blood in this film, and there's definitely like plot holes and like conveniences where, you know, in the first movie, Chisato kind of gets captured by the Yakuza, but they just don't kill her for some reason. So they just let her go, and she just keeps doing her job
Well,
normally.
yeah, I think that works with the comic tone
Yeah,
of
it kind of works.
of the movie.
It kind of does. And in the second one, it's after like when they're about to pay their bill at the ward office, then it gets like robbed by these two guys, and then it's like they beat these two like hardened like robbers, and they're like two hardened assassins, but then they just get manhandled by like the cowering
Yeah, true.
the guy, and there's like no reason for that. It doesn't work. It is just it is a contrivance, and then that's what lets them to get like suspended from like killing people.
Also, there is no police presence in any of these movies, so you don't know what the police are doing in these films.
Yeah, there's like gunfights and stuff, and like nothing happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could be a commentary in itself that police don't do anything in
true.
Asia anyway. So it's like, it's all fucked. So there you go. But I don't know. There's just an energy about this film that I don't think a lot of people are gonna get if you are not into like Japanese culture, or you're probably not gonna like this movie that much, unfortunately, because you might like look at it on a surface view and be like, the acting is too much. The action looks weird. Nothing happens, and I think this is like the issue. Kind of, if you watch if you watch too much of the one kind of cinema that gets like shit out at our megaplexes,
Sure.
you kind of
It's
become
not
like numb to it.
It's not a Netflix action
no.
film. Let's just say that.
I mean, I guess to play devil's advocate, like someone could say, like, well, I mean, I watch Red Notice, and that's why I like Red Notice because I just want to watch The Rock. And
Everybody loves Red Notice, Tavi. There's nobody here is
That's
saying
true.
that Red
Everyone
Notice is not a good movie. This is different to Red Notice.
Red Notice is garbage. But Baby Assassins does so much with its like limited budget. It's really good. I mean, there's a particular shot in the first one which really sticks to my mind for some reason. It's like they're at kind of like this. It's when they're moving to their new apartment and at this crossroads, and they're just like wheeling their like suitcases around. They're kind of just like fucking around, and I really like that shot. That really like just like sticks into my head for some reason. And it's nothing particularly interesting is happening. It's just them like moving to a new apartment, and they're just wheeling their like suitcase around, and it's just a really nice shot.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and it's just a
good.
relatable situation because Google Maps can be confusing sometimes. And
I mean, it's like, as you said in our ballerina episode and what we said, you just take a little bit of time to make your frame look good, and it goes a long way, you know?
And as much as it shits on kind of like the way Japan works as like the bureaucratic side of things, it still looks like Japan looks great in this. It made me really miss Japan. Like
it really does.
The little teishoku restaurants that they go to, even the convenience store at the start of the film. The apartment, like as we mentioned, the streets and stuff. Like they go to Ueno at one point, and they're running by Asakusa. It's all like really good looking stuff.
Yeah, Japan photo easy mode.
Easy mode. That's what it is.
Yeah, these films like look better than they probably have any right to be. I really like the color grading in these movies as well. It's like almost a little bit amateur, but also there's like a kind of personality. It's got that kind of green tinge that a lot of Asian films do, and like what you're taught in like Westerns, like green is supposed to evoke sickness, and maybe it's the sickness of the system or whatever, or the sickness of them being actually assassins, you know. And thank God it's a film that is made by a millennial and has a lot of millennial themes, but doesn't have like over fucking excess use of TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and all that shit. That's like, it's when it comes to some movies from the West that have young people in it, there's just so much fucking internet bullshit that it's just like, ugh.
Yeah,
I'm talking about you, Butts Mitzvah.
There's a little bit of that. Like,
there's a little bit of it, but it's not like...
are kind of like on their phones a
they
lot.
They talk about Twitter, but it's not like... That's just kind of what they do, you know? It doesn't bear anything on the plot where it's just like, I just really hate that aesthetic because I hate social media.
I'm interested because we talked about how this is kind of different to Dad Action in that it is more like the other direction. It's more like the younger generation having a go at the older generation, via the lens of an action film. Like, I'm surprised that there aren't more movies like this, to be honest, because I was just saying before that, like, now is the time where a lot of creatives are around our age or younger. So there are a lot of, like, opportunities, I guess, for movies to kind of take that approach of having a go at the older generation. But you don't really see that theme that much in movies.
I think I'm going to have to disagree with that.
Really?
I think the answers are right in front of you, but they're just poorly executed and have bloated budgets.
Like what?
Basically, almost any Marvel TV series. It's everything that's like going against like the older generation traditional ways of thinking.
Is it?
You know? I think so.
What is an example?
I mean, I think it's more heavy-handedness, especially that comes from the new Captain America, and the Winter Soldier. Just very like heavy-handed messaging.
I see what you mean. Okay.
A lot of like test audiences hate the new Captain America, and just like So I think you might be right in the sense that there's not a lot of this kind of baby assassins movie, maybe in general in the West, but there's definitely a lot of like newer upcoming writers who probably have this message, but it's just served in a different way. That's just like not as good, unfortunately. So it's just but I don't know. Like, there's probably some good ones. I mean, to go off on another tangent, I watched American Fiction pretty recently. One of the Oscar-nominated films. That's a really funny movie about the, I guess it's commentary on, I guess, white guilt praising like Black American literature, from the perspective of the main protagonist of that film, it's like it is just as stereotyped as anything else. So I told you that I'm basically the Asian version of that main character in that film. So there's definitely like good stuff. It just gets pushed aside because there's so much like bad versions of these kind of films, and they're the ones that get the spotlight.
I guess Emily the Criminal also had themes of like this fucked up system that young people are struggling against. I guess
so I think there are. It's just, they're not. I think Baby Assassins is quite unique in that it's not that overt with its message, but
it's all the better for it.
Just really, I really like. This is like one of my favorite action series in the past few years. It's just something that it's so easy to watch, I think. And I hate coining this term, but it is actually like a good background movie. Because you are basically just hanging out. It kind of feels like you're hanging out with like the characters, and I really enjoy the characters in these films. And even though these movies are quite light, they're also like pretty violent as well. So it's not like a Shang-Chi where like this awesome like criminal underground gang has just non-lethal weaponry and stuff like that. There's actually blood in it. People die in this show, which is cool, and there's like some pretty, there's references to like dismembering bodies and stuff,
and the action feels visceral as well. Like the fight scenes are long enough that you can feel the like actors getting fatigued.
It's good, and it's not bogged down by an executive who's forcing in APG aesthetics in there, so it's not ruined by that bullshit. So it's just it's a good nerdy niche click movie that an otaku like me, I guess, would enjoy. So
I expect big things from both this director and the two leads in the future.
I hope so.
I think they're going places.
Big things, as in the sense that they'll probably be in a couple more live action films in Japan, and you'll never see them in a live action film in the West. Because
they don't need to
Asians
do that.
Over here.
They don't need to do that.
They don't need to do that. They don't need to. You don't need to not like do like a Lee Jung Jae and enter the acolytes.
Don't even bother learning English. You're fine. just stay in Japan. It's better over there.
Just stay in Japan. Yeah.
All right, but I think that's us, right?
But
what did you think about these movies, guys? Did you enjoy Baby Assassins 1 and Baby Assassins 2? Which one was your favorite? Let us know. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at twoasianblokes to see what we're up to. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Pay your bills on time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll get you.
Otherwise, you get your they'll get you get your shit turned off.
You get your shit, and then you gotta walk. Like you gotta go to some station that's in the middle of nowhere to go to the office to pay this bill, and then that's when you get your electricity turned back on. It's really inconvenient and embarrassing, Tavi.
Oh, wasn't that embarrassed? I actually wasn't that embarrassed, to be honest. I'm a fucking dumb foreigner. I'm a fucking mid-20s dumb foreigner who drinks too much.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, it's fine.
How many times did you have to do that?
I think twice.
So you didn't learn your lesson the first time.
No. Electricity was twice, and I think water was once. So yeah. I feel yeah, Mahiro, Chisato, if you are real people. I get it.
It's tough.
Anyway,
All right,
that's us.
see ya.
See ya.